Brisbane's empty tunnels. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, I'm Florian Heise and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. I've got my stein of coffee and I thought we'd look at this article from the Brisbane Times. It's discussing our tunnels here in Brisbane. Now if you're not familiar, Brisbane went on a tunnel spree several years ago. Tunnels, bridges, lots of public-private partnerships, infrastructure spending. Now, at the moment, many people and politicians seem to think that infrastructure spending is going to be the solution to all of our economic problems. I mean, we can have a look here at Brisbane. Let's just have a look. Okay, a highway improvement, transport up here. You know, another one. Rail improvement, fantastic. Maroochydore, highway improvement. So more and more you have all these different proposals. And I'll link to this website if you'd like to go through it on your own time. It just has a map of everything. Don't seem to be any power generation though. Wonder why. That might have an impact. But still. And there's another video I'd like to draw your attention to. Stimulus spending waste. This is one I did looking at an article from 2009 by Chris Brown. From Mises Daily. Now, in that article, he refers to the Building Education Revolution. This was the scheme by Kevin Rudd that apparently saved us from the GFC. He gives an example where a building was demolished and replaced with another building exactly the same. Or not exactly the same, but same purpose. Now, that is wasteful. That shows you that destroying something just to rebuild it doesn't actually add anything. How does that align with these roads, Florian? How does it align with these roads? What are you saying? I'm saying that infrastructure spending in and of itself often is wasteful. Because remember, the money the government spends doesn't magic out of thin air. It is taken from you under threat of force, through taxation, through duties, through every other thing you can imagine. If you actually were to sit down and realize how much money you pay in taxes, it would get quite depressing. That's the biggest black pill of them all. You know, rather than taking this money from people and spending it in these infrastructure projects, which we're seeing now, are having less benefit. I just read an article recently. I made a previous video about empty tunnels in Brisbane, where they were talking about it in 2016, said, oh, it's good, it's growing, it's not meeting the predictions, but at least it's good for ratepayers. We suck at all those investors, but we got these tunnels. And now the congestion benefits we're seeing 3 years later aren't materializing. Because people don't want to pay for it. When times get tough, what do? You drive on a free road. But you also have to remember, a portion of this is money taken from people. And a lot of this government stimulus they're proposing is also taken from people. What would those people do with that money otherwise? Well, they would probably use it to pay for afterpay payments on car batteries, if anyone looked at my community post, but they would spend it in the economy. So, a counter suggestion to the stimulus spending would be looking at ways to get more money in people's pockets. I would suggest maybe reducing the fuel excise. That's an idea. So let's have a read through this article. Let me know what you think, guys, in the comments if you are a frequenter of these tunnels. I tend to avoid them when I can because I'm cheap. So Brisbane no longer receives congestion-busting benefits from its 3 underground road tunnels. After a decade and $10 billion in costs, a Brisbane transport and urban planning specialist said. Well, there you go. It tells you right there, $10 billion, no benefit. Associate Professor Matthew Burke from Griffith University's City Research Institute said Greater Brisbane would have benefited instead from building the Cross River Underground Rail and Brisbane Metro bus projects a decade ago, and improving the region's public transport first. Okay, now that's an interesting post because the Cross River Rail is never going to be profitable. It's going to be subsidised for the foreseeable future by every person that goes under that rail. So it's probably more of the same. Today we remain a pretty car-dominant society, he said. Most of us, transport planners, would look and say, particularly at Legacy Way and Clem 7, if we had invested $8 billion or so in alternative projects like Cross River Rail and Brisbane Metro, that is what Vancouver had done and what Sydney is doing with their metro, then it would have really boosted a public transport. Perhaps. But, okay, he's just looking at one thing. I mean, that's his profession. It's completely understandable in what he's focusing on. But what else could it have been invested in? What about if maybe they had to reduce rates to Australians because the council put a portion into it? Rates to all the Brisbaneites because the council put a portion into it. Associate Professor Burke on Monday spoke in favour of introducing a future congestion price to reduce peak hour CBD congestion. So, CBD, not CBG, but it's another tax. Another tax. It's what we need, guys. Taxes solve all of the world's problems. Don't you realise that? You're living in democratic socialist Australia. Taxes are the solution. The environment, it's heating up. We better tax. Yes, tax. Oh, we got to put a tax on meat. Can't have you eating meat. Can't have you being healthy. Don't worry, eat all this sugary loading crap, high carb rubbish, and then don't worry, we'll steal money off you, put it into public healthcare, and then we'll pay for you to keep your life. We'll reduce your life and quality of life significantly, but we'll take care of you in a shitty hospital. The Melbourne-based Grattan Institute released a discussion paper supporting a scheme where motorists would pay a small price equivalent to a public transport fare to drive their car into Australia's capital city CBDs. Okay, that's bullshit, number one. Number two, public transport is not cheap. It is not cheap. If you are going into the city with a family, so Rachel and I would take the kids, would catch the train station and go in. That is equivalent for us of driving in. If we don't have to pay for parking, it's cheaper for us to drive in than it is to catch the train in. It is not cheap. It's not a small price. What this is going to create, isolate people from entering the city. It's going to create a class divide. You're going to have the people who can afford to go in the city willy-nilly, then you're going to have the plebs who can't. Maybe that's what they want. Keep you in your little suburbia. Don't come into the city. No, we don't want you dirtying up the place coming around in your old car. It's not brand new. You can't afford that fee coming in. Now maybe, okay, I'm being a bit hyperbolic, but still. The Grattan Institute says a congestion price on cars was realistic in Sydney and Melbourne within a decade, but it did not study Brisbane, which last looked at congestion pricing in 2011. Associate Professor Burke said Brisbane received a sugar hit from the 3 tunnels, Clam 7, Airport Link, Legacy Way, when they opened. But since, we have actually found ourselves in the last few years in pretty rapidly increasing congestion. We really haven't built our way out of congestion in any way. He pointed out Brisbane's traffic data collected by Vehicle Traffic Technology and referred to Brisbane's TomTom Congestion Index. TomTom technology shows Brisbane's travel time in morning peak has increased by 2% since 2017. It's estimated Brisbane's peak hour travel time has increased by 14 minutes, and the evening peak hour has increased by 15. Well, remember, I did another video about population growth in Australia, and South East Queensland is predicted to be one of the pockets where it will grow, and that's just going to have an effect on congestion. I mean, I'm fortunate because I'm working here, This is my house is over there. This is a little studio on the back. I literally walk down 3 steps to get here in the morning. The hardest thing is making my coffee and then having to go back upstairs, because I try and record my videos in the morning, having to go back upstairs to have bacon and eggs. It's a tough life. So, if you honestly, completely, if you can find a way to avoid congestion and traffic in your life, even if it involves getting paid less and doing things a bit differently, I would recommend it, guys, because that is just dead time. Although, when I was doing Uber, I could listen to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts and those type of things, which was fantastic. And by the way, you can hear Heise Says on Anchor.com on many different podcast platforms if you're interested. Insert plug somewhere, sorry. So, RACQ has found similar extensions to Greater Brisbane peak hour travel times, despite significant road expenditure by Brisbane City Council and the Department of Transport and Main Roads. Associate Professor Burke said Brisbane had not seen the shift to public transport that planners saw in Sydney and Melbourne. Well, it's because it's bloody expensive. They need to make it cheaper, or they need to open it up. We've got a lot of problem with trains here and getting enough train drivers, and it's a highly unionized sector. I wonder why that is. We are now seeing the sharp uptick in rail patronage and there are some well-documented issues with QR over the last couple of years, he said. We just haven't seen those things happen in Brisbane, and that is quite a disappointment. Associate Professor Burke said, the 3 tunnels cost the private and public sectors about $10 billion. Clem 7, 3.2, Airport Link, 4.8, Legacy Way, 1.5. So here's the vehicle use per day in 2010. Let's just look at, so the averages was 33, 2012, 57, 2015, 21. Well, there you go. That's the predicted averages, and these are what vehicles are using it per day. Transurban says Greater Brisbane's traffic numbers have grown by 3.9% from 2018-2019. The best of these is getting over 60,000 vehicles a day, while others are getting around 30,000 per day or less, he said. He ranked the CBD to Brisbane Airport Link Tunnel a success because it allowed Lutwyche Road to be reclaimed for motorists and for the Northern Busway to come online. It's a genuine correlative desire. Yes, but the numbers that are being used in that tunnel. I mean, let's jump here. We'll jump here just to these images in a previous video or a previous article I did, and this is the predicted numbers, and this is from 2016, and this is the actual. Look at the difference in what they predicted in that tunnel to what's actually going on. How can he call it a success? He's calling it a success because Lutwyche Road, okay, more people can drive on it, fantastic. But from a business modelling success, it is not. Look at this one. Go between. Nope. Clem 7. Nope. So yeah, all these predictions were completely way off. All the modelling was wrong. And what was quite concerning was that council had their own modelling which they wouldn't release because it was public-private partnership, and they wanted the more optimistic modelling to go ahead. Once again, we're seeing councils are restricting access to their data because for their own commercial interests, perhaps. Is that ethical? Is that ethical? Let me know what you think in the comments, guys, because we're seeing this more and more, particularly with the fire cladding, with what happened in Darwin, with the structural slabs. We're seeing this all the time. They know better than us plebs. Soon they'll charge us to drive our cars in the city. Won't that be good? When they're not already taxing us on petrol, a fortune. You've got to pay a duty when you buy and register a new car. Now they want to charge you to pay for roads that have been free forever. There you go. There you go. So RSCQ's head of public policy, Rebecca Michael, said Brisbane's toll roads were not doing the heavy lifting to tackle congestion. There are major underutilised toll roads in Brisbane that aren't doing their fair share of the heavy lifting because drivers are being deterred by expensive fees. We want to see greater incentives and discounts offered to get people using toll roads and help spread the load across the broader network. Dr. Michael said the RSCQ did not think Brisbane was ready for a congestion charge. It's premature to introduce it here in Brisbane, she said. We're not at that scale, nor do we have the population of other major cities that impose these types of taxes. There is no doubt congestion is a big issue in Brisbane, but there are other more suitable options available to manage it. International transport logistics company Transurban, which wholly owns Clem 7, Legacy Way, Airport Link and the Gateway and Logan motorways, said their motorways were making an impact. Well, of course, they're making money off them, you'd hope. Nearly 120,000 trips are taken each day in Brisbane's tunnels. That is all of them put together, a spokeswoman said. That's 120,000 fewer trips on the alternative routes like Storybridge, Gympie Road, Coronation Drive and the Riverside Expressway. The spokesman did not answer questions as to how Transurban may offer flexible pricing plans to tackle congestion. And they were talking about this in 2016. The CEO of Transurban was talking about it in 2016, like, we'll look at all options to provide better service to our customers. And so it's obviously utter rubbish, wasn't it? Because none of it's materialized. So Queensland toll roads are just one option to help people get to where they want to go, with other roads, public transport and other active transport options available, she said. Transport Minister Mark Bailey said Brisbane was a different city to Sydney and Melbourne, and a congestion charge was not yet being considered. He said the Queensland government was concentrating on building Cross River Rail and 4 M1 upgrades between Brisbane and the Gold Coast, and phasing in the next round of smart ticketing. Well, guys, what do you think? What do you think? you think that money has been wisely invested? Does it increase your confidence in calls for more public infrastructure spending? Are these all just a bunch of broken windows that were being built that are not addressing the issue? Do you think having more money in your pocket, with maybe 40 cents off a litre on petrol, might have more an impact on your ability to spend? Let me know what you think in the comments, guys. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel. If you like this content and want to help me produce more, I have a Subscribestar and a Patreon, and I appreciate all of your support. Well, I'm going to finish my coffee, and my job for the rest of the day is to finish stripping paint and painting walls at our house. It's the advantage of buying a fixer-upper, guys. It never ends. I'll see you later.